Thanks, Yvonne, and morning, everyone. There's a bit of a theme going on here. I did, as Yvonne said, lead this program. It was called Transforming Rehabilitation. I have now been asked to stay on and manage the contracts that we let. So again, sticking with that theme of retaining responsibility for what we've put in place. I was reflecting on Dougie's comments about the Interserve perspective of public service markets, and that general story he was describing, of course, has been true for the Ministry of Justice as well. I work within the National Offender Management Service. Effectively, we're responsible for the running of the Prison and Probation Service. That's the core business we're responsible for. And essentially, we have, over the last 5 to 10 years, been working through a series of reforms which primarily have been driving down the unit cost of a prison place and driving down the unit cost of delivering a community order once the court has sentenced someone to a community sentence. We've been remarkably successful in that. We've opened up our market to a broader range of providers, and that competitive leverage has got the unit costs down significantly across our system. We have literally saved hundreds of millions of pounds off the running costs of the National Offender Management Service. But as Yvonne described, is that whilst we continue to reduce our unit costs, and we will carry on doing that, we have also got a problem whereas the demand is not dropping in line with that, and whilst we still have sustained demand, we do need to actually introduce into the system some incentive to actually drive down the demand as well as the unit cost. And so this package of reforms focused primarily on reducing reoffending. As Yvonne said, a large number of the people who come through the criminal justice system are repeat customers, and we see them regularly. And that churn through the system, of course, costs society an enormous amount of money, not just the direct cost within the Ministry of Justice, but the broader cost of crime across society. And so what these reforms essentially did is took a large section of the probation service and through a competitive process, outsourced it. It is a first-generation outsource. We looked for a much more diverse range of market providers so that the innovation in service delivery would give us a chance of delivering better outcome performance than we've done previously. We measure outcome performance by reducing both the actual reoffending levels and the frequency with which someone reoffends. And they're two different measures of outcomes which both are important for the stock in the system, but also the churn of how quickly we see people coming through the system. What these contracts have done is we have a very diverse market. Yvonne, I think, will talk a little bit about the diversity of the consortium and team that Interserve put together, and it reflects the requirements we had for this transaction. We needed large private companies with sufficient investment and expertise in business transformation and business process re-engineering, organisations that could run a big outsourced delivery model, but we also needed them to have the service user intimacy and expertise with working with vulnerable or excluded adults, people with complex sets of needs within the criminal justice system. And so to be successful, you had to assemble that kind of a diverse range of partners. And as you heard earlier, Interserve were the most successful organisation in the competition, winning the biggest market share, around a quarter of the market share. These new contracts are 7-year contracts, but we have the opportunity to extend them. That gives us the flexibility to say that where organisations are successfully delivering better outcomes, we can continue to do that and drive down demand into the criminal justice system. So for the first time, we have not only services to deliver the orders of the court, but those contracts have an outcome incentive designed into them. So there's a financial incentive to reduce reoffending. And so on behalf of the Ministry of Justice, that leaves us in a position where if we're paying the full contract value to produce that return on investment. We're only paying it because reoffending has actually been reduced. That's obviously good for the taxpayer and obviously for the organisations delivering it. They would be getting a return on investment by delivering that better overall outcome performance. So from our perspective, it's really early days. We're just 6 months into these contracts. The really good news is nobody's broken anything. We've got through the transition in a way that many people said wouldn't be able to be delivered, but to the credit of Interserve and the other providers in the system, they've worked really hard at continuing day to day to deliver probation services across the country. But all those organisations now go into a more transformational phase where they will begin to implement their new operating models, which will bring in the innovation, which should drive better outcome performance. I think just to close then, from our perspective, we won't be standing still with any of this agenda. Of course, the pressures on public funding will continue, and I think Dougie explained very well how we as Public Service Commissioners are thinking, which is the next phase of what we need to work out is how do you get better integration across public service markets. I describe this market as the social justice market. There's very interrelated skill sets between employment support skills, community healthcare, and of course the justice sector which we work in. The better we can integrate those delivery models, I think we can deliver better public service outcomes at a lower unit cost. And we're going to need some help doing that, and which is why we will continue to look to a more diverse market of partners to help us deliver that agenda. Thank you.